Hi, I'm Tim. Join me in this video as I do an unbox, test fly, and discussion of the autopilot stabilization system of the Ranger 600 Stunt ready to fly foam RC glider. Let's get to it. As you saw in the previous video with the flight, this is the Ranger 600 Stunt by the folks at EXHobby, and they were kind enough to provide it for me for this flight view, and I was impressed. We'll go through an unboxing, discussion of the flight characteristics, the stabilization system, and the autopilot, but I think it's an interesting model that you might want to add to your hobby collection. It's lightweight at 2.5 ounces. It's 4 channels of full control with these inboard ailerons along here. The pusher prop is always nice because you don't have to worry too much about damaging the prop on landings. And it's EPP foam, so it's a really tough, lightweight construction. So it's a fun little thing. So this is the box of the Ranger 600 Stunt. One thing that you'll see throughout this discussion, it is a very highly maneuverable model. I agree with the word stunt here. Yet there's a lot of discussions with beginners. With certain of the autopilot stabilization modes, I think a beginner can fly this, but it's a pretty lively model when you fly it around. It's not a classic trainer, and it is a full 4-channel control. So it does have a stabilization system. It's completely assembled. All you have to do is take it out of the box, charge the battery, plug in the battery, go fly. There's nothing you need to put it together. It is a nice little model, as I mentioned previously, at 2.5 ounces, and everything you need is in the box to include a 2.4 gigahertz 4-channel transmitter, the batteries, the charge of the model. The only thing you need to supply are 4 AA batteries for the transmitter. So that is the box here. It's a nice presentation. It truly is a plug and play, and it's a nice model. So let's go ahead and take a little bit more discussion of the instruction manual and how the model works. So this is everything that comes in the box. The model is here, just completely assembled. This is the 4-channel transmitter, the on-off switch. You put on your 4 batteries and back. This is an aerobatic switch we'll talk about a little bit, and this is an important thing. This is the stabilization switch it's clearly marked. Back all the way is expert, middle is moderate, mid, and 2 is beginner, and that will affect how the plane flies. I'll go into more detail on that. Standard trims controls here, and the control is just a standard mode 2 control. So the transmitter comes with everything. You get 2 of your 400 milliamp batteries. These batteries are a little bit bigger than some of the 300 milliamp that come with other of these ready to fly models because it is a bigger motor. You get 2 spare props, which is nice, and then just your standard USB charger for the battery here. Just plug it into any USB port that has sufficient power and the battery will charge up. So that's pretty simple how to operate. So let's take a look at the airplane itself. This is the model. It's a pusher prop. It is a brushed motors installed. It gives plenty of power to fly this model at 2.5 ounces. It is a full 4-channel control with throttle through the ESC, ailerons, elevator, and rudder. To access the hatch of the battery is this little canopy here thing, the EPP foam. You just take it off. There's a notch here, and then a little plastic clip that goes in here. You can see the 2 micro servos in there for the elevator and rudder, and then the circuit board, the ESC, the antenna, all buried away, and this is where you connect the battery. Do observe the polarity for the battery, the red and white. That's going to be very important. Most airplanes, you have to measure the center of gravity. The center of gravity is not given on this. With these ready-to-fly models, everything's built in to be at balance. With the model here, the motor on the model balances out okay, but it's just something good to keep in mind as a pilot as you develop your modeling skills. You have to check the center of gravity. Another important point, if you look carefully at this wire to, in this case, the rudder, but it's the same on the ailerons of the elevator, you'll see this U shape in the wire. That's a very good thing to have because with a pair of pliers, you can make that wider or narrower to center up the rudder, elevator, any of the control surfaces. So it's important to take some pliers and just make sure your control surfaces are centered. There's not a lot of control throw in these smaller models. They don't need it, but you do need to take off with the elevator, rudder, etc. centered to properly fly the model. The other thing I want to point out are these are the ailerons that cover the bank of the airplane. Normally, ailerons are on the outer edge of the wing. These ones are on the inner edge, almost where flaps would be, because that's just how the designers mechanized the connection to the servo inside here to the ailerons. And notice also a little U-bend connection here. These are fairly large ailerons. There is an awful lot of control throw that I'll show you once I hitch up the battery. I was concerned over that amount of control throw. It's a lot, but that's just the way it's built in. There's nothing I can do about that. But the important thing is when you are banking with the model, if you want to bank, say, to the left, this aileron goes down, this goes up. These ailerons are so big, there's so much throw, if that aileron goes down, you can easily get what's called adverse yaw with the model. Even though you are banking to the left, the drag of this aileron going down will turn the nose a little bit to the right. It's just a part of flying these large ailerons, a large throw. The way you counter adverse yaw, you just use rudder. So if you're doing a left-hand turn, left bank, left rudder, the rudder will counteract the adverse yaw. Tough little airplane, 2.5 ounces. That is essentially an overview of the airplane. So let's go ahead. I'm going to plug in the battery and we'll see how it operates, and I'll talk a little bit about the autopilot and stabilization systems. So as I mentioned, or I will mention, with these models, it's always standard procedure to turn on the transmitter first. It depends on the model, but if you don't turn on the transmitter first with these micro models of the electronic speed control, when you plug in the battery and it does not see the binded signal from the transmitter, it may go into the bind mode, which means you have to rebind it. There are instructions that will help you on that, but if it's binded, you want to keep it binded by turning on the transmitter first. So we have done that. The battery is charged up. We double check the polarity. This is correct. It is a keyed system, so it shouldn't go too bad. I'll put the battery in here, and now the model is plugged in. So notice the elevator works, the rudder works, and watch the ailerons. You'll see how much throw I'm talking about. That is a ton of throw for something this small. So we've discussed that. Now another feature is a safety feature. Is the throttle doesn't work if you just touch it the first time. Okay, that's a safety feature. What we're going to do is get the throttle full up. You'll hear a beep, back down a beep, and then the throttle will work. So we'll go full up. There's a beep, back down. Now the throttle works, and I can tell you that's plenty of power. That's a good thing to have for the model. So let's talk a little bit about this model and its autopilot stabilization features. With a lot of these modern models, there's two types of assist to fly. There is a stability augmentation system. It goes by various names. Park's own has the AS3X, automatic stabilization 3 axes. And then there are other forms of an actual autopilot that will fly the airplane for you. And so my view, having a lot of experience with this, is I think RC pilots should learn how to fly the airplane. Just be a pilot, fly the airplane. I'm not in favor of an autopilot flying the airplane for you. I can tell you, even when I was flying commercially, the autopilots were wonderful. They were an absolutely useful aid to flying the airplane, but they were complicated. And a very standard phrase with airline pilots, at some point they go, what is the autopilot doing now? Because they'll have some feature you don't know about. So with this one, I'll talk about a few of the things that it does, called the one key return, one key acrobatics, and one key takeoff, which I think are kind of marketing things. Just fly the airplane to take off, fly, do aerobatics, don't fly it away. However, on the other hand, the stabilization system, I didn't realize because the instructions didn't quite explain it, is built in, very effective and very useful. So let's talk about the stabilization system first, and then we'll go into the autopilot. So when this switch up here Back is expert, middle is mid, and forward is beginner. I'm all the way back at expert. All the stabilization autopilot functions are turned off. Nothing works. You have full control of the system. After this, you're going to see the 3 flights I took. The first flight was in the expert mode because I wanted full control. It was an awful lot of control. The model was up and down. It was difficult to fly. The second one was with the mid control, and then the final one you'll see after this is in the beginner mode. Now I want to show you what happens in the beginner mode. Once the motor runs, if you can hear that chatter, that is the servos and elevators trying to counter wind gusts to keep the model stable flying through. Watch what will happen with the ailerons. When I turn the model, I bang it in my hand. Do you see how the ailerons are going back and forth? That is the stabilization system working, and the same thing happens with the elevators and rudder. And so it works in the background to give you a surprisingly smooth feel of the model as it goes through the bumps. These smaller models can oftentimes be a challenge to fly. They'd be a little bit twitchy. The stabilization system, no kidding, works. I was very happy with the stabilization system. So I recommend that when you take your first flight, be this switch all the way forward into the beginner mode. You will have sufficient control to fly the model. You've got sufficient power. I think that would be a great first step. And then you can go to the middle and expert if that's what you feel you want to do. So just a quick comment on the autopilot functions. There are 3 of them. The first one we'll talk about is a 1-key return. You'll see here in the instructions, it's half a page about how to do a 1-key return. To really do a return of any model, it has to have GPS, global positioning system information. It doesn't have that. What the 1-key return means is that the model will do a 180 degree from its takeoff heading and return in the direction where you are. I'm not sure that works. It's a very complicated procedure to do it. Just fly the airplane to keep it within sight. The other thing they have is a 1-key aerobatics instruction. That's another long, detailed discussion of the directions. Where you push a button, it does some aerobatics. Just you're a pilot, fly the aerobatics. You don't have to have a button to do it. And the final thing, there's another half a page, is a 1-key takeoff. I'll read from here. The airplane comes with 1-key takeoff function, which enables the plane to take off automatically and hover in the air until any operation of the transmitted exit. Follow things. There's no model airplane at this price point that's going to take off automatically and hover in the air. There might be some translation issues or whatever. Just you're an RC pilot. Go ahead, enjoy the airplane, fly it as a pilot. You might have a few crashes here or there, but just learn how to fly the airplane. So let's take a look at the first 3 flights. I touched upon this earlier. The first one is the expert mode, no stabilization. I'll have a commentary during the flight. The second one, I settled down a little bit, the middle position. The final one was in the full forward beginner position. The model handled very well, plenty of power. I was very happy with the model at this point. Hi, so we're out here at the field today. It looks like a nice day for flying, a little bit of a breeze, but that's okay. And we'll take the Ranger 600 for its test flight. There's really not much to do on this. You saw in the previous sections, it comes all together in the box. We literally just have to take it out of the box, charge the battery, and go give it a test flight. It came binded, so everything should work on there. So the next thing is to install the battery, do a control surface check, and then we'll take it for a test flight. Ian is showing us the airplane pre-flight before we go, and just a nice size airplane, light, just everything fits, works well. Very happy with the overall construction quality of this aircraft. So this is the no kidding first maiden flight. I'm in expert mode. There's no stabilization, full control throw. I'm just flying it. As I mentioned, there's a lot of control throw, and the thing was kind of swooping and going up. Now, with any first test flight, my idea is to get some altitude, the old 2 mistakes up, and make sure I have enough control throw. There's plenty of power, good control throw. I just have to kind of figure out to settle down. You can see those large ailerons, the very tight turns, and that'll be a pattern for future flights. We'll now take a look at the second flight. This is in the medium mode, the mid mode of the switch, a little bit more settled down. I'm reducing the power a little bit, which I think will help with the control, because I understand a little bit how it flies, but still a fair amount of control on the model. But it looks like it's a little bit better, and the stabilization is working with that mid mode. Again, you can see the really tight turns of the ailerons. This final one, I get a little bit slow, an awful lot of aileron just stall out. So this is the third flight in beginner mode, and now it's flying a lot better. That little jump, I think, was just the controls kicking in. Nice power setting, level flight, very comfortable flying. I like this a lot. You can notice I go a fair distance away when I'm flying this model, maintains full control. I always like flying low, slow to the ground, and with a plane like that, it's just going to bounce and I'm not going to hurt the prop. I feel very comfortable doing that. You can see a little bit of adverse yaw with these turns here with the ailerons. Just a little bit of a rudder will fix that. Again, full control in these low, slow flybys. I'm liking it a lot. And now we'll do a final low turn and come in to land. So thank you for joining me in this video. The Ranger 600 Stunt is a fine little airplane. I'm looking forward to flying it at the field. For an absolute beginner, you'd for sure be in the beginner mode of the transmitter. An instructor would be helpful, but it flies well, plenty of power, and just a fun little airplane to have. Just you throw it in the trunk and take it out to the field and fly it. And good luck with your Ranger 600 Stunt sailplane.
I have not flown models or seen models like this fly before, so this has been a real eye-opener for me.